Traum is a pianist and content creator who creates videos on YouTube playing the piano, obviously. But he's also attempted to do things like play Flight of the Bumblebee faster than the world record pace, and also playing Rachmaninoff having drunk vodka. And as well as demonstrating his piano speed and his drinking ability, he does make videos playing piano normally as well. And so today I'm going to react to him. So let's get into it. I mean, that's pretty crazy. It's funny because in the comments, there's a lot of people who think he sped the video up, and I would actually be tempted to think that as well, but it doesn't look like there's any like compressed frame rates in the video or anything like that. So I don't know, let me know what you think. There's also quite a few comments that say if you can play it slowly, then you can play it quickly, which is what every piano teacher says, and I'm pretty sure I've said that on this channel. And I do think for the most part that holds true, especially in a piece like this where it's basically a chromatic scale, and a chromatic scale is where you play every key. If you can drill in playing with exactly the same fingers every single time, then the limiting factor is not your ability to play at that speed, but it's more about the action of the key on the piano. If Traum tried to play this on like a Yamaha upright piano, there's absolutely no way that the key would bounce back up in time for him to play it again at that speed. But I suppose on a digital piano, if you practice it enough so that you can kind of time it so the key bounces back up in order to be able to play that same key again, then I'm sure it is possible. But there's only one way to find out. I mean, I don't think that was anywhere near as fast as he's playing it, but then again, I'm not going to beat the world record. I mean, his hands do look a bit shaky there, but it's hard to tell whether that's because it's sped up or because his hands are just shaking at that speed. Either way, he's playing it very accurately, and all of the notes are very crisp. It's super interesting. So as I said, Flight of the Bumblebee is essentially a chromatic scale, so you're playing every note on the piano, just in a sort of particular pattern where it goes back on itself. For me, the hardest part about this piece is actually not all of the fast notes in the right hand when you're playing it at a regular speed, because once you've practiced it enough and played the same thing over and over again, drilling in the fingers into your hands, you can kind of forget about your right hand. The part where your attention actually goes is to the left hand because you're moving around and jumping around with chords a bit more. That is actually the irony of most difficult parts of difficult pieces, is you end up drilling it into your hand so much that it becomes automatic, and then you focus on the thing that isn't the hard thing. The other hard thing about this piece is trying to keep it quiet, because obviously a B is small, so therefore it's supposed to be quiet. I bet you didn't think you'd be learning things like the fact that a B is small today. Yet here we are. But yeah, trying to play all those fast notes while keeping it quiet is actually really quite difficult. But I love a bit of Flight of the Bumblebee. It's one of those pieces that's both really good for your technique, but it also sounds super cool and impressive, especially when you play it faster than the world record. The only thing harder than that is playing Rachmaninoff after drinking. I mean, already there was an extra note there in the left hand. I don't want to be that guy, but Rachmaninoff definitely didn't write that extra note in there. The only thing that I'm actually directly noticing is the fact that all of his chords are spread. So he's kind of going... That's a little bit of an exaggeration, but still. I mean, he still has a really nice, clean melody on the top of that. A lot of people don't do that. They kind of drown it out like this. But he has that really nice top note. That is probably the most difficult thing to do in the entirety of this first page, other than obviously learning to play the chords. And it's probably one of the most difficult things to do when learning the piano at all, which is to balance the notes in your hand. When you've got 3 notes to play in your right hand, and the top one has to be loud, but the other 2 have to be less loud, it is actually really quite a challenging thing to learn, especially trying to stay relaxed in your hands. Because for the most part, a lot of pianists tend to either not be able to balance their hands at all, or they try and force it and then end up with really tense hands. But yeah, it's nice to hear such a clean melody. Here we go. Can he hold it together throughout all of this fast section? At the moment, he's playing it better than most pianists play it when they haven't had a drink, so I'm just waiting for it all to fall apart. I saw an extra note. And another one in the left hand there. They should play this video in schools to kids to show them what happens when you drink. Because personally, I think playing the wrong keys in a Rachmaninoff piece is enough to put anyone off drinking. It's super interesting though. I think it does show you that the musicality and the shaping and all of the technique that he has built into his hands now, once you've practiced all of that stuff enough, you really don't need to be fully switched on in your brain when you're performing it. It's a bit like driving a car or talking, for example, where you really don't have to think about it in order to do it. And I suppose if you were drinking and then driving a car or talking, you're still going to know exactly what to do and how to do it, so you're not going to lose your ability to speak, but you just lose your reaction time and your accuracy a little bit, which is why we're getting Rachmaninoff with a few jazz harmonies in there. It's interesting, I think he might have silenced the notes that he played incorrectly on the MIDI, because there's a few times where the notes that he plays are shown, but you don't actually hear them. If that is the case, I wish he'd left them in, because it would have been so much funnier listening to the piece with all of the extra wrong notes. Once again, those chords at the bottom are supposed to be together. It's interesting because by anyone's standards, that was still a very, very good performance of the piece. So we've seen Traum play incredibly fast, and we've also seen him play with less than full attention. But I want to see how well he really plays the piano with a normal piece, where he's got all of his attention and is not trying to break a record. And a couple of months ago, he did Nimrod from the Enigma Variations by Edward Elgar, and Elgar was a British composer, and I am British, so... So even in this piece, he's still spreading most of his chords, where he's kind of going... I don't know whether that's like a bad habit that is drilled in, or whether that's a stylistic choice that he's making. But I do think with this piece in particular, when you arpeggiate them slightly like that, it takes away some of the stillness of the music. I do absolutely love Elgar's music, and it's not just because he's British, although that does help. But it's also because Elgar was actually around during the First World War in the UK, and he lived in the countryside, but he suffered from quite bad depression. And interestingly, the person that Elgar dedicated Nimrod to, and the person that he wrote the piece about, was someone called Augustus, and he would help him through those depressive episodes that he was having. And he actually wrote Nimrod after speaking with Augustus about some of Beethoven's slow movements in his pieces. And you can kind of hear in Nimrod something quite sentimental, and also someone that's dealing with depression, and also you can tell that there is some inspiration from Beethoven's slower movements. But I love all of Elgar's pieces, and the reason being because there is such a depth of emotion in there, because you can tell that he was struggling with his own emotions. But the one thing he wasn't struggling with is being able to convey that emotion in music, because he definitely wrote some of the most beautiful music. I definitely feel like I'm being slightly distracted by those spread chords where the melody is slightly delayed. I can understand arpeggiating chords sometimes as a stylistic choice, if you want to make the melody sound like it's a stretch and a bit difficult. For the most part, when you play pieces like this and you've got this really clear melody that's moving around, you almost want to replicate a singer. And if a singer was jumping up to a high note, they might have to like stretch to it and it feel a bit difficult. And a way of replicating that stretch might be to arpeggiate the chord on the piano. So I can definitely see that, doing it as like a stylistic thing. But other than that, I would have to be convinced as to why, especially when it's so frequent. I absolutely love the moment when that main theme comes back in and it's massive compared to the beginning where it was like really small. So at the beginning you get kind of... It feels really introverted and kind of shy, but when it comes back nearer the end, it's really big and majestic and almost like it's crying out. I mean, it really is an incredible piece of writing, and that melody is so memorable. It's actually really hard to write a simple melody that is so memorable like that. But yeah, obviously Traum is a very good pianist, and he plays very well, and actually, above anything else, is very musical, and he can really express the piece of music properly. So I really enjoyed all 3 of his videos. If you want to see my reaction to another pianist called Acmegon, then head on through, and I will see you there.